Hi everyone, I am Camellia. I am a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, also known as a PMHNP, and a mental health and nursing enthusiast. And I'm actually getting on today. I have not done a video in a couple of weeks, but as I'm prompted and as I share experiences, other things come up, other questions come up. And so I just wanted to really have a place where I could discuss a timeline, just a general timeline of helpful tips for you along your PMHNP journey. So that's what today's video will be about. One day I'll get a little more savvy and I'll be able to organize these videos into pre-program, student, and also post-PMHNP. But haven't gotten there yet, but today is actually more geared toward those who are active students and or those who are considering applying to a PMHNP program. So you're sort of right there, and possibly those of you that have just graduated, this may be for you as well. This is not meant to be concrete advice. This is really based on my own experience, as well as some things that I wish I had learned beforehand, just to help be prepared and to reduce and mitigate some of the stress that can come along with this process. So the first thing I'll talk about is pre-student, meaning if you are planning to start a program, some of you may be planning to start in the fall. Others of you may be still considering whether you want to go the PMHNP route. So what I would recommend is about 3 to 6 months ahead of that. If you're not working on a behavioral health unit, maybe just consider that at this point. There, of course, has always been the argument made that most aspects of nursing, despite where you work, you are getting some of that behavioral health experience. But just as with anything else, guys, it is a specialty. You do hone specific skills when you're actually on the unit and you're doing that day in and day out. And for me personally, it just helped to translate to being able to work with a population as a PMHNP. So it's not required. Some programs do require it, require you to have some behavioral health experience. Others don't. But I would say if it's not required, just for the sake of honing in on some of the skills, definitely try and start looking about 3 to 6 months ahead of time to be sure that you can get as much as you can from your experience while you're a student. Okay. My journey included me being a PRN employee on a behavioral health unit while I was working in other areas of nursing. I then loved it so much that I actually took a leap and actually started working full-time on a behavioral health unit before I backed down to being a weekender when I was in school. So it works. It worked well for me, and it can really help you in terms of developing skills that you're going to need as a PMHNP. The second thing to consider day one, or possibly before the first day of your PMHNP program, is to start looking for preceptors. Okay, I can't really hammer this enough because, of course, there's a shortage. There's a universal shortage of preceptors, and you really want to be prepared. You don't want to be that student who has to wait things out. You're delayed in graduation because you haven't been able to secure a placement site. The other thing about a behavioral health unit, if you are working there first, is that a lot of times what you can do is establish good connections with those providers and others that may have a network outside of where you're actually working to a really secure placement, or someone who is looking to take on students. Okay, so that's another perk of working on a behavioral health unit before, or in that particular setting before you apply, or before being a student. Okay. I also would recommend that you have a backup plan, and I've done a video on the skills that you acquire as a behavioral health nurse. I've done a video on preceptorship and places that you can find clinical placement. But as I said in the previous video, be sure you have a backup plan, steps 1, 2, and 3, for in case something does not completely pan out the way that you have planned. in terms of a preceptor. Okay, it's never too early to do that. Within the first 3 months of your program, and you may do this a little before that, I would say start looking at your time commitment, start looking at your schedule. The first few courses are usually more of a refresher course, courses in theory, some of the courses that may not require as much of a commitment in terms of your time. However, that happens and you get through those courses pretty quickly, and then soon enough you'll actually be in the core courses for PMHNP programs, and also taking tougher courses like advanced psychopharmacology and advanced pathophysiology. Okay, so you want to start thinking about what your schedule looks like. What time do you have to commit to the schedule? I work as an academic coach, and I see this often where students are just not prepared for those tougher courses. And in most of the pathophysiology courses, it's recommended that you spend at least 15 hours a week. So start looking at your personal schedule, your work schedule, and be sure that you have enough time to commit to those courses, because you do have to be successful with those courses to move on. Okay, and I see this happen quite often. So that's once you are in your program, you're getting ready for those tougher courses. I would say 3 to 6 months before graduation, you want to start planning for your boards. I know some that actually took their boards literally a few days after they graduated. But you want to be prepared for that. You want to be looking at dates ahead of time. You want to be looking at first and second dates, secondary dates, in case something gets pushed back. And you also want to be looking at courses that you might consider taking as a refresher for preparing you for the certification exam. Okay. Some of you may want to know, did I take a certification course, an exam for a prep exam or course? I did. I actually took the Barkley course. There's one for Fitzgerald that has really good reviews as well. And I'm actually considering taking the Barkley course again, just as a refresher, now that I'm 5 years in as a PMHNP, because it was really good information. And I'm sure now I'll probably gain a little bit more from it as well. But it was very helpful in helping me to think through specific aspects of what was going to be required for the certification exam. Okay. You also want to start finalizing your niche in terms of where you want to work. You want to start thinking about the clinical sites that you have actually been able to observe and work on as a student. Does that fit into where you think you may want to work? And then, of course, right before graduation or a little bit after that, you want to start preparing for job searching, and starting with, filling out applications, and being sure that you are really focusing in on where you want to work. Okay. I also did a video on the things that you want to consider after you've graduated. And after you've taken your board, you've passed the exam, you can go back to that video, but there you want to start thinking about more of the administrative things that are definitely going to be important for you to actually practice. And that includes obtaining an MPI number, that includes a DEA number. I would say start with the DEA first, as far as a part of that process, because that tends to take the longest. Some of you may already secure jobs as a result of your clinical placements, but you want to be prepared to get that done, because it can take months for those things to finalize so that you're eligible to practice and also prescribe medications. Okay. So that's just a general guideline, guys, that I thought was, useful for me. And looking back, just being able to just kind of time and prepare things accordingly. So if you have any questions, you can refer back to a few of the videos that I've done on each of these specific things. But again, I hope this is helpful for someone. I'm planning to also just create a simple little checklist that will reference a lot of what I've talked about in this video. So you guys give me questions, comments, comment below if you have anything that comes up. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.